Chad Prather rose to internet fandom as the man who's unapologetically Southern.
Heath Oaks is a published author who failed his way to success.
Together, they tackle today's headlines in a way only a Southern Spitfire and a millennial mogul can.
Take off your sport coat, grab a beer, and enjoy the conversation.
This is Second Shot with Chad Prather and Heath Oaks.
We have another Southern Spitfire in the studio today, just much prettier than Chad.
Just a little.
Welcome to Tiffany Hendra.
I do shave sometimes. No, I'm kidding. Hi!
How are you?
Yeehaw!
Well, here's the funny thing. It's nasty raining outside in Dallas, but yet Tiffany and I somehow came dressed as 100% bright as you can possibly.
You could not miss us.
You cannot miss us no matter how thick that rainstorm is, I can tell you. So
you came correct, that's for sure.
Yes,
yeah,
we
you
brought
look
it.
great. Yeah.
We brought it.
So it's Second Shot, just for the new people here. What we do is like take your headlines, and we like to take the headlines and not even get into them. More so, we want to try to figure out how do we take a second shot at those headlines on our business, personal life, or anything to kind of bring some tips or traits of things that maybe can help others that are going through it.
Love it.
And today we've got our special guest, Tiffany Hendra. And what we'll do at the end of it on the third segment, where we typically will take some listener emails, is really get to know you a little bit more.
Awesome.
Let you tell our audience about you and some of the things you have going on and coming up. And so remember, secondshotcast@gmail.com for any questions, comments, or any things like that we will take and address for you. Secondshotcast@gmail.com. Make sure and share this with your friends. Leave us a rating and review. That's what helps other people find it. So I was able to con my good friend Tiffany to coming on here, and I was able to meet Tiffany, I guess, how long? Was 2 years ago or so, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for having me. This is fun.
I'm glad you're
here.
here.
I love that I can bring my twang out because your twang will always be a little bit stronger.
It's almost impossible for it not to come out around me.
This is going to be fun. Thanks for having me.
And Tiffany's husband, Aaron, is a phenomenal artist as well, and I love Aaron. I've always told her I had a man crush on Aaron. I just thought he was such a great guy. And Aaron and I have always clicked in a big way as well. So
how did you two get to know each other? Because when you sent me an email and said, "Hey, I got a guest coming in, Tiffany Hendra," I was like, "Well, that's got to be a typo." How do they know each other?
Yeah,
Jenny.
Yeah, all right.
My wife.
Sure.
He's okay, but his better half.
100%. Yeah.
Jenny and I were in 10 most influential women of Dallas.
That's right.
And I loved it because I was just getting to know women in Dallas, and she and I were sitting on the bed in a hotel room waiting to get our makeup done. And she and I were just hanging, and I am an energy person.
Yeah.
She was just cool and calm and real, and we just chatted. And I really didn't know much about her. I don't know if she knew much about me, but we just clicked as girlfriends.
Yep.
Not as, oh, you're on Fox 4 on TV, not as I'm on a reality show.
Yep.
And we became instant friends.
And then I got to meet her husband, and Aaron and I.
And then in Whirlwind, you guys like in a blink got married and have had beautiful Brighton. So,
yes. Yes, I definitely dress like my daughter's name.
It's true. Now it all makes sense. It all adds up.
So we got our first one, and I sent Tiffany this headline. She was like, "I don't know anything about football." I'm like, "Remember, it's not about the headline." But
I'm not a good Texan. I admit it. Sorry.
Here's the headline.
I know I'm supposed to be a football person.
Georgia Tech needs strong finish to bolster bowl prospects. Basically this. In college football, you miss one game or lose two, you're almost out of the running. Like the only way you can make sure that you control your destiny is by not losing a game, not having one mess up. Georgia Tech needs an extremely strong finish to make sure they can try to get into a bowl game, okay?
I'm trying to listen, but I'm hearing wah.
Oh, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I struggle with the college football.
Who was that? Snoopy's teacher? Wah, wah, wah.
That's a good one. That's actually a good one.
Okay, but I'm trying to focus. I'm listening.
Now, here's the interesting thing is that there's a lot of these teams that planned on being undefeated, that were always the perennials, that have lost one or two games. And honestly, if they won out and some crazy things happened, they could be in it. Some coaches are able to keep their teams going forward and keep fighting hard, even though there may not really be a shot of them getting in the national championship. Mm-hmm. Some don't. Some they just tank.
That was my question because as a coach, I coach women. I did play some sports. I was a cheerleader. I mean, you're in Texas. You're raised to be a cheerleader and to play football. That's I think we have a little bit of competitive spirit as Texans because and pageants. The girls want to be in pageants. They want to be Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. So does it fall back on the coach and his performance, how great he is, and pulling out like the grit and personal power on each?
Well, you said the best word there, I think, which is grit. I always believe everything rises and falls with leadership. And if you're in the leadership role, you always have to take the ownership. I'm reading the book by Jocko called Extreme Ownership, which is really good. He's ex-Navy SEAL. And it's extreme.
I love books like
extreme
that.
ownership is really cool. But I'm talking. But more so too is how many times do we hear people think that successful people are the ones that had it all easy? And I want to talk about our listeners that are on here going
BS.
100%.
I call BS on that.
There's a lot of people probably listening that feel like the odds are stacked against them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody who's been successful, the odds have been stacked against them. Some have figured out grit, some have not figured out grit. And it's funny because when you said the word grit, I wanted to read the actual definition because it's interesting.
Grit.
And not the grits that we make for breakfast in
Texas.
Texas.
So delicious, not quite that though.
What the actual the actual definition of it is small loose particles of stone or sand, courage and resolve, strength of character. He displayed the true grit of a Navy pilot. So courage and resolve and strength of character.
I love that.
So I love it. Now, how can people get grit? How can you help people? Like, if there's a lot of people listening right now that have the odd, they feel like the odds are stacked against them, and they feel like it's everybody who is successful. They never had that going through it, but everybody did. So how does somebody get grit? How can if somebody's in a position they don't want to be in right now, and they feel like there's really not a shot? How do they stay motivated to just still forge forward?
Going back to what you just said, first of all, I think everyone is born with a certain level of grit. And the human spirit is freaking amazing. We have this inner strength. Yes, some people learn to develop it and really sharpen their personal power. Nelson Mandela, when you think of the people that were under, extreme odds, and they overcame the people, so many people. I could list, so much. But grit, you said people are saying, oh, look at all this I have against me. Look at the obstacles. To me, it's about focus. What are you looking at? What are you focusing on? And if you're focusing on all the obstacles, you're going to crumble with it. It's going to be so overwhelming. You have to shift your focus.
But people don't believe they can control their mind. And I think that's the biggest misunderstanding.
Yeah, again, BS.
You 100% control your mind and thoughts.
Yes.
If you get up every day and you think about, well, I'm not making any money. Well, I'm not getting the shot at that promotion. And I've got family drama all the time.
Listen to your self-talk as well.
Yes, that's what it is. All you're doing is saying negative.
Yes, and it's called hashtag Tiffirmation.
Yeah.
I put them on Twitter every once in a while because affirmations truly help me change. I was from a negative family. The mindset was mediocre, and I had to make the decision to change my focus and speak positivity over my life. And those two things right there will do
Here's
wonders.
What people say, though. They always say, well, yeah, Heath, I'm talking about, besides all that stuff, you're talking about corny stuff, right? They all think it's corny. And I go, it's funny because it works. That's what I like they ask, that's what I do. My wife and I have our grateful and goals board, and we walk out to make sure we think about what we're grateful for, what our goals are. I listen to nothing but Ziegler and nothing but podcasts of positive stuff. But then these people want to sit over there and act like that's just corny stuff, but yet that's
exactly why they're
happens.
sitting over wherever they're sitting, looking at the wrong things.
So right now, you can make those changes because like you said, you didn't come from the environment that was 100% positive. I grew up in an environment that wasn't really negative, but I wouldn't say it was overly positive, but it wasn't negative. But yet, I just knew that I knew that I had to figure out a way at it.
And it starts with that belief.
You have to believe. And grit, though. You got to have that strength of your character, which, speaking of that, we're going to get into probably on the next bit as well when it comes to character. But your strength of your character and to forge through is the key.
Yes, integrity.
And here's the biggest thing. You can do it. You 100% have the ability to make a decision and change in your mind and control your mind, not your mind control you. Your mind ain't that smart. You still run the thing, okay? So don't forget that.
So true.
Coming back, we'll be on the second segment of Second Shot. That was a good one. I like that. See, you know football. Ha!
He likes cowboy hats and boots.
And he's a suit and tie kind of guy. Chad Prather and Heath Oaks host more of Second Shot coming up on RNCN.
Ready, aim, fire. Second Shot is back for another round on the Real News Communications Network.
It's so nice to be in here today with the bright and the cheeriness that we got going on, and I love talking.
Are you just talking about our clothes?
Oh, yeah, and I love talking the football segment, and everybody else in here is like, what is going on? No, so this next one I think is going to be, this is a very hot topic at the time.
Oh, it's a hot topic.
And there's a lot of things that I believe that come to this that Tiffany and
I got
my
some 2
both are going
cents.
to
I
come
got some
to
4
it. So,
cents, maybe even 5.
All right.
Read us this headline, Zach.
Nicola can throw at this. Yes, why Aaron Sorkin refused to write a crude Nicole Kidman sex scene. For anybody who's not familiar, Aaron Sorkin is a screenwriter in Hollywood. He wrote A Few Good Men, Tom Cruise, The Social Network, David Fincher, The Newsroom on HBO. Anyway, he's got a movie coming out called Molly's Game, comes out on the 25th. Shameless plug. And he was doing an interview with USA Today, and somebody asked him about maybe some of his writing experiences in the past. And he recalled a time when he had to write was supposed to write a crude sex scene for Nicole Kidman on a movie called Malice. Came out in '93, starring Alex.
And
Nicole
this is
Kidman and
this
Alec Baldwin.
This was probably obviously brought up because of all the stuff going on in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. And he talked about, he wanted to talk about how he didn't pander to it. And so it was kind of early in his career. He had just done A Few Good Men. It was kind of his first big movie, and he was writing for this movie Malice, and the director decided at some point after the script had come out, you know what, I think it needs a steamy sex scene. So he asked him to go back and write it, and Aaron Sorkin didn't want to do it, but said, okay, here's what I'll do. So he goes back to his hotel that night, and he writes 4 pages of banter where the two characters are bantering at a restaurant or something, and then they go back to the apartment, they fall into bed, cut to the next day. Easy. And the director says, no, that's not going to work. I want you to write a scene. He says, well, okay, what exactly do you mean here? Where are you coming at this from? Like, what do you want? And he said, I want you to sit down at a typewriter, and I want you to write what you'd like to see Nicole Kidman do on screen. Ugh. Right. And this was like his second big writing job, and Sorkin said, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. Like, that's twisted, and I'm not about that. But he
obviously since then has still gone on to be
integrity with a capital I.
Right.
Like
clearly successful.
And he still has clearly been successful. But early in a career, saying no and standing up with it, obviously there's so many things that can be pulled from this.
Well, and from my term, hashtag one of my Tiffamations is use your lady balls. And like from a women's perspective, it's like use your lady balls. But he used some balls. Yep. That was ballsy.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Stood up and said no.
Stood up, yeah.
Now, here's the thing. How many times, how some people go, well, if you're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, I just don't believe in that saying. I don't know if there's such thing as wrong thing.
I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, I don't either. I never have. I've never understood the wrong thing for the right reasons. That doesn't make sense.
No, even people say, well, I said a little white lie to help you. Or, I changed my verbiage because I wanted to just, I didn't want to make you feel bad or whatever.
Have you ever had those situations especially, somebody like yourself, right? A very good-looking woman. You come up in the modeling world, you had to have times that things came across that were putting you on that brink of your integrity and your character and people that are out there now that are maybe working in with businesses and maybe having to do things like their boss may be saying, hey, cook these books a little bit or cook this and that. There's a ton of them, right? Mm-hmm. Where is that line? Where do people know? What are some things that can really be when there's that time to kind of, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Right. But what time do you go? Are there any times where it's kind of like, look, no big deal. This is my job. I got to do it.
But going back to character, you mentioned character earlier, and like I said, integrity. And when this big topic keeps coming up with women right now and not letting ourselves down. So we want to please everybody. We keep our word to, hey, if I said I'm going to be there at 7, I'm there at 6:58. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We keep our word to so many people, but we're not keeping that to ourselves. We're letting ourselves down. Yep. So when you fall, compromise just a little, and you do that thing that's in the gray area, you have to live with it. And I'm sorry. I love sleeping peacefully at night, mm-hmm. and I've had ulcers in the past, and I am very open book, transparent, and I have done those things, especially living in LA for 16 years. I was a bikini model, I was a lingerie model, and I I went well below my integrity level many times. I've done auditions where the casting director said, well, you know what, we need to do a body check. Can you strip down to your panties? And I wanted the job so bad that I did it. And I wish that I had the self-love and the confidence and the integrity
kind of like
level.
what he did was like,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I have friends that did. They're like, hell no. Sorry. No. Can you get maybe a female to come in or whatever? And I didn't. And I had to own that and deal with it for a long time and forgive myself for making those decisions.
Well, and here's the best thing is just because that happens doesn't mean you can't ever bounce back. But it's moving forward. It's when you don't, right? Like when you stop making those and you know when it is. And I look at it and I go, in what we do all the time and in the business world is so filled of nasty people that will tell and do whatever it takes to get business or do any of that. And, my dad always had a strong thing that, remember, son, your last name's mine.
I am so glad you said that because with the show, Real Housewives and all of that, we just went to Australia recently, and Aaron's family is so wonderful, and I bear his last name now. And not only would I not want to continue to put myself on a public level on a platform where I dishonored God, but hell no, I'm not going to dishonor the Hendra name.
Yep. My dad always said, your last name is mine. Don't forget it.
Yes.
And I think in today,
some people don't think about that.
No,
they don't care.
Character and integrity and who you got to find out what you stand for. And I think in the personal world, we were talking about it earlier. I think if people are in the dating world, a lot of times people will get wrapped up. Maybe they have just a strong attraction to somebody, and then they overlook all of the things that are not kosher to what they believe and how it is, but you just have this strong attraction with that butterfly stage, right? Like that goes away at some point. So you need to make sure, don't overlook the things that are important to you.
Right, especially if
because you and your husband, Aaron, for instance, y'all are on the same way, like y'all are both positive people, just like Jenny and myself as well, and you and Aaron have the strong foundational pieces are all the same.
Right, and I dated so many guys that were great guys, but we didn't have the same spiritual beliefs, and I knew in my gut that this was not marriage material. But yes, like you're saying, I stayed with them because I was desperate and I wanted to be in a relationship. And if I loved myself more, and that's when I started on a journey. When I met Aaron, I had been single for the first time for about 1.5 years and started really working on myself and getting refocused on the things that I believed in. What does Tiff believe? What am I going to hold myself accountable for now? Instead of just dating whoever and, partiers, bad boys, and all of that.
It's funny because if you, on paper, Jeannie and I would not be a match. I mean, we are literally the furthest from being a match on paper.
I love how you always say you married up.
Oh, absolutely I did. I'm telling you, I married up like a champ. But you look at it, you got a guy who's a dyslexic that can barely read and write, and I got married a journalist. That's
awesome.
An Idaho girl, East Texas guy. I mean, everything about us on paper, except for the most key fundamental parts,
and that's
striving for to be a good person, a good example, doing right, and having the integrity, having our faith. Those foundation keys are what are absolutely so in line that everything else doesn't matter. And I think it's important. What I think is most important part of it when it comes to knowing what that line is you got to know what the hell your line is.
Yes.
Too many people don't know what the hell their own line is.
They don't. And when you're talking about marriage and people marry because it looks great on paper and it's like a business transaction.
It's the worst thing in the world.
I'm sorry, those are all the people that are getting divorced.
Yes. You cannot do that.
No, you can't.
I mean, because like I said, on paper we would be complete opposites. But you got to know your line.
You do.
I clearly know where my character, my integrity, and where my moral compass line is. I had a father who made sure I had that instilled in me at a very early age. Okay, there was no wavering from that. And I think that today's world, too many people don't know their line. You don't know what you're willing to cross and not, and so I can't tell you what it is and isn't because you got to know that for yourself.
Well, you're grateful. Be grateful because a lot of people are not raised with a strong father figure that can
100%.
instill that in them.
Yep.
So that's why people like us, motivators, I coach women. A lot of them, they can't talk to their mom.
Yep.
So they don't know what their line is because it wasn't instilled in them.
Yep. And it's the most important thing to do is hurry up and find that line.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Like you got to know what you're willing to cross and what you're not willing to cross.
Yes.
And to me, my name and my reputation is what all I got.
Well, now you're a father.
Yeah, well, 100%.
So, yeah.
My daughter, she will know from day one that she is a badass. She is strong.
Exactly.
She can be just as much of a badass as anybody there is on the face of the earth. Yes. And
Brian the badass. I love that.
This woman, she gonna be tough. I promise you that.
I know she is.
This one, that girl is gonna be tough because I'm gonna make sure she wears turtlenecks and sweatpants for the rest of her life. And that's it.
No, because Jenny loves fashion. She's gonna be fashionable.
Yeah. Well, I'm
I know
still
what you
fighting
mean.
for the
I know what
turtlenecks
you
and
mean.
sweatpants.
The Velma Dinkley approach. I respect that.
Yes.
Know your line, people. Know your character line. Know your integrity.
Find it if you don't
not
have it.
Cross it.
Exactly.
Third segment coming up on Second Shot.
Now that's what I call ignorance on fire. More of Second Shot with Chad and Heath still to come. Kick off your boots or suit up. The choice is yours. Welcome back to Second Shot with Chad and Heath on RNCN.
So what's funny, we were just talking about the things of how you know you made it. And I had one that wasn't too long ago that was hilarious. In my office building, I'm walking down and I'm down on the floor going to the elevator. Mm-hmm. And as I'm going on, these two ladies are walking off and they go, "Hey, how do I know? You look familiar. Is your wife Jeannie Ann Chondo with Fox 4?" I'm like, "Yes, she sure is." I'm like, "How you know it is whenever people go, 'Oh, I know you. Your wife is.'" I'm like, yes, that is her.
Yes.
But Tiffany, I want you to tell everybody a little bit more about you, kind of your story and kind of some of the things that you're doing, some of the things you have coming up that maybe some of our listeners may be interested in getting involved in, but get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you. I was one of those young girls here in Texas that had big dreams, even though my first house was a trailer.
Yep.
I'm from a real trailer park. It was a nice trailer park. It wasn't like 8 Mile.
I call them manufactured housing communities.
Yes. Great family. I've got a sister. My parents are still married, and you just had big dreams. I just wanted to see the world. I was one of those National Geographic kids that I couldn't wait to get my grandpa's National Geographic, and that was my big thing. I wanted to see the world. Tried college, went to college on an art scholarship, thought art was going to be my life, and even though I'm on the shorter side, I knew that modeling was going to be my ticket out of the trailer park, so to speak. And I started traveling the world and finding that I loved being in front of the camera, any way, shape, or form, doing commercials, anything like that. Ended up Leanne Locken from the show, from Real Housewives. She and I were both Houston girls. We moved here to Dallas in '94, and I thought that was like, I'm going to the big, scary city. Right. You know what I mean? I was like, DFW.
The big D.
Yeah. And moved here, did a lot of modeling, and again, that itch to go even bigger. So I, loaded up the wagon and headed out to LA, headed west.
Yep.
And had a great career. I was really fortunate that Tiffany from Texas, I don't look like a normal Texan because I'm, part Japanese, I'm Czechoslovakian, 2 tribes of Native American. So I would open my mouth and the casting directors were like, wait, that's not how I thought you would
expected.
Sound. So you really use that, probably like you do, Heath.
Yes, 100%.
Do you use that twang a little bit?
I do.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how to do it any other way, but I just own it.
I did have an agent say, you know what, you've got to get rid of that. You've got to get a dialect coach. And I did, and I could turn it off when I want to. But fortunate to work on a lot of TV shows, figured out that, that southern thing that women have, that self-deprecating thing really worked to my advantage. And I started TV hosting. Yep. Did a lot of things. So long story short, that dream had come true, right? Mm-hmm. Not. I'm getting the paycheck. I'm on all the different networks, and I was miserable.
Really?
Yes, I was miserable, and that's why finding your purpose and one dream you start out on it could be the bridge to the next dream, because that was not it for me. There was something more, and
don't you think that's the key that a lot of people miss, is that honestly, the journey is the most important. There is no destination. That is not a cliche. There is no destination. Yeah, I always say it's the journey because there is no destination. Yes. That's not even there's zero destination. Yes. It's an ongoing deal. Absolutely. Enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. And so I had a lot of things happen in my past just, from daddy issues, have a great dad, but just didn't have a great relationship with him, had some traumatic things happen to me that I hadn't dealt with. So I was carrying a lot of baggage, putting on this, facade of, wow, my friend's back home, the family seeing me on TV, and she's made it and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't making it. I was slowly dying. And I hit a rock bottom moment, got caught up in drugs and alcohol because of the things that I was trying to mask and numb myself. And it was a beautiful thing because I had just finished a TV show, had a lot of money in the bank, came here in 2002 to Dallas to sober up. I call it marinating in my shit.
I like
Faced
that.
my shit. Marinated in it for a little bit. And I think that's one of the most wonderful, freeing things that a woman could do, any human being, is when you've got things that you're keeping, you're bottling, you're pushing down, is actually face that demon and unleash it. And that's where the healing starts. So in 2002, I did that. Ended up going back to LA and trying to figure out why do I have this longing to work in front of the camera? Well, started doing a lot of different things, trying to hone and figure out what that was. I started teaching young girls teenage development class. I started working in a boutique. There's nothing more daunting for a woman than to be naked in a dressing room with her. So just the vulnerability. And then the YouTube craze started. So here I am. Hey, I can take this into my own hands. And if I want to have a show that empowers women, then let me start this YouTube thing.
Make my own.
Yeah. And so a lot of trial and error. It's called Sanctuary of Style. It was my baby because I had a lot of friends that would come in and literally help me get dressed for my date. And then they would be in the closet with me and they're like, you know what? I'm having so much fun in here. I don't even care if I go on the date. And I just started noticing just that I really lit up. You have to find those things that light you up, that you literally could do without getting paid for, that just that heat in your belly that gets you excited. I loved seeing women stand up a little taller and like walk out of the store, walk out of my closet, and they just had that pep in their step. They had that swagger. They felt good about themselves. And I knew then that I was like, I'm a confidence builder. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But I want to help make women feel like that all the time. Why do we have to just, when we put on a pretty dress, why can't we own that every single day of our life? So that set me out on a journey that, led me to where I am now. And I've built Sanctuary of Style, I have followers all over the world. And now those followers started contacting me and saying, I love your energy. I know your past. If you can do it, I want to do it. Can you coach me? And I was like, I don't know. Am I worthy? I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
What year did you and Aaron meet?
We met I actually dated Aaron's friend.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I knew of him, hung out. He had a big mansion. The record label put him in the Hollywood Hills. But he was a good boy. So I didn't have my eyes on him. I had my eyes on his bad boy friends. And then about 3 years after I'd come here, marinated in my shizzle, went back that year and a half that I said I was single, ran into him on the street in 2003.
And when y'all ran into each other, how long after that did y'all get married?
4 months.
4 months. They ran into each other on the street.
Yes.
4 months later.
So I realized last month in October, I was like, baby, oh my gosh, 14 years ago this month we started dating. So in February, we'll have our 14th wedding anniversary.
Crazy.
See, I was thinking about this the other day. There's something to be said for, of course, the wedding anniversary, but also, the first date anniversary. That kind of gets swept by the wayside. It's important.
Yeah. So that was actually a very pivotal part of when you set out on doing your purpose, wanting to be a better person. You want to find that line, all those things. When you make that small little decision, I'm going to have some belief in myself. I know I'm made for more. I always knew I was made for more. So just because you start in the trailer park doesn't mean you have to end up in the trailer park. And Aaron was a pivotal part of my healing process.
Because
God loved him through me.
Yeah, let me guess this.
Through him. God loved me through him.
Was there times that you believed that Aaron believed in you more than you did?
All the time.
Okay, so
all the time.
So that's I always tell, like, one of the biggest things is sometimes you have to believe in others' belief in you before you can believe in yourself. And then like I believe that the success that I reached is very minimal to what I'm going to be able to do now since I met Jenny.
Absolutely.
Since Jenny and I being together, I feel like has been such a powerful deal of the belief factor that
absolutely
that we infuse in each other, and I think that's so important with finding that person.
Oh, it's so important. And a lot of the women I'm coaching now, like I mentioned earlier, they are either newly divorced or just want to start dating the right guys, but they know they've got to find that belief in them. So me showing a little belief in her starts, I call it like I'm igniter. I'm a passion igniter, and that little where she just needs that flame, and then I fan that flame, and then she's shining and loving herself. She's going to attract that right person that's going to help fan her flame. It's really powerful.
You
when
have to believe in you.
Meet the right person that believes in you and the teamwork that it takes, because marriage ain't easy. But when it's the right person, you do truly become who God destined you to be.
If you're with anybody who doesn't make you feel better, it's not a good person
it's like,
to be with.
I know. I'm
That's
like
not a
the
good
truck
person.
backing up.
Yes.
Boop, boop,
That's
boop.
the worst to be
Energy.
with.
I'm like, you're a repellent, and I'm backing up now. Got to go.
Somebody has to help infuse you with the power in it. And my wife does that with me, and I hope that I always do that for her, and I hope that my daughter, like I always said, I'm going to treat my wife so well that my daughter will never date any guy that is bad, because she only will see a bar so high that
I wish more
she's
dads
only
would do
going
that.
to have an expectation of the greatest, even when she's wearing her turtleneck and sweatpants, you know?
She can still look hot in a turtleneck.
Here's one of the things I want to talk about, too, that you said was, a lot of people will sit around, this is always that question, well, how do I find what I'm passionate about? Get off your damn couch and go do stuff.
You know what?
What you just went through when your story was, you went through 100 things that you went through trying.
I even started a network marketing company with a skincare, because I was like, I was entrepreneurial, but I had been a model.
You did everything.
Right. I had been a model forever, so I had agents doing my deals and things like that, but I had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have a business mind. So I started working with a network marketing company to learn some entrepreneurial business skills at the same time. And all of that
combined
has led up to me being able to do a business here in Dallas.
It's very simple. It is one of those things that I like always say, you know what? I never bitch about winning the lottery because I don't play it, okay? But if I play it twice a year, or you play it 200 times a year, who has the best chance of winning? Okay?
Exactly.
So if you go out and try one thing a year, or I try 20 things a year,
who you think's winning?
I'm going to be luckier than you.
Yes.
The ball has 19 more times of a chance to bounce my way than it does yours.
Yes.
That's the simplistic of the simple part of success is I screwed up more than you have. That's why the ball bounced my way.
Yes, I firmly believe that. Get out there and try things. If you're interested in it, and some people say, oh my gosh, you would be great at this, you would be great at that. You know what? Try it. And it may not be for you.
Absolutely.
Go on to the next thing. Look at all your gifts and talents. I have women write out their strengths. What are you good at? What do people tell you you're good at?
Even if you think you have no interest, if you have no interest, just try it. Yeah. If it's not going to harm you in any way, try it.
Exactly. Firm believer in it.
What are anything that you have coming up? Where can they find you?
Yes, I just had a workshop. So now that I've been here, I had the YouTube channel. Was a working TV host forever, and finding in Dallas, people were like, "Oh my gosh, how did you start a YouTube channel? How did you get into TV hosting?" Never thought I'd really coach it, but I loved, teaching. You go back to what you wanted to be when you were 8 years old, and I made all my cousins play teacher or school, and I had to be the teacher. So I do workshops for women. I've honed it now for women only, because I find that when a woman wants to start a business, it comes from a very emotional, spiritual place, from a passion. So it's kind of a spiritual workshop combined with business and social media, on camera presence, and I'm really loving it. I coach women one-on-one, but I still do Sanctuary of Style. That's my first love, is actually being in front of the camera, and sharing my tips with women to enrich their life, whatever it is to enrich a woman's life.
So if they wanted to maybe reach out to you about one of your workshops or about some coaching, where would they
TiffanyHendra.com. You can find everything there.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. You know where to look me up at, guys, at Ignorance on Fire and at Heath Oaks. And thank you for coming in and taking the time. I know this was
a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a blast. I loved it. And remember, guys, secondshotcast@gmail.com. Send us any questions, answers, anything that you've got. Leave us a rating review. Share it with your friends. And we love y'all. Have a good day.
Bye.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.